By all accounts, the separate vest and shirt that come with the $35 to $45 Amazon Han costume are surprisingly good quality. The pants, however, while thankfully separate from the top, suffer from two problems: attached fake boot covers and no belt. Step one in punching up this costume is cut the boot cover part off, leaving the stirrup, the elastic strap that is supposed to go around the bottom of the boot. It will help keep the pants tucked in. If you are lucky, you can borrow some boots from a friend or family member. It's always worth checking out thrift stores. These are the boots I loaned to my son. They aren't exactly like Han Solo's, but for a Halloween party they will do. Let's not forget, the point of this exercise is to make the costume look better, not submit for membership in the Rebel Legion. If you can't borrow a pair of boots, you can get them pretty inexpensively from Phantasma. Of course, you can get really expensive Spanish or English riding boots if you want, but if it's a costume you will only wear once or occasionally, you don't want to spend too much. Mine cost like $54 if I remember right. The next challenge with making this costume look more authentic is the fact it's missing Han's DL-44 pistol on the holster. Now, you can get a nice holster for between $50 to $200 plus. If you spend a little more, you can get the deluxe version of this costume with a belt and holster and separate but still fake boot tops and better pants. But instead of spending $35 for the costume, you're looking at spending $110. More if you want a blaster. I actually have a DL-44 blaster that a friend from the Imperial Outlanders gave me, which I intend on modding for a future video. But making one's own Western-style gun rig like that worn by Han is probably beyond the skills and or time or energy that most people, myself included, are willing to invest in a Halloween costume. For about $20 in supplies, though, you can build your own Stormtrooper belt and holster. You can pick up a cheap Ruby's E11 blaster and paint it up at whammo. Now you are looking legit. Svetlana and Vinny from Kamui Cosplay, link will be in the description. Check them out, they are amazing. Have a great tutorial on their YouTube channel showing how to make not only the belt and holster, but also the blaster as well. Fortunately, I already had a Stormtrooper belt. Only problem is I'm quite a bit beefier than my son, so the belt would have to be redone. I could have just taken it in, but both the fabric and the plastic parts were currently painted black rather than white, so I figured I'd start from scratch using what I could salvage. I didn't have any canvas, but I had pleather, so I decided to build the belt with that. That was a mistake, and you'll see why later. I cut a length of pleather, measured it to my son's waist, and cut it accordingly. The Velcro had started to come undone at the last cosplay I did with this belt, so when applying it to the pleather I used rivets. They worked spectacularly well, giving me a false sense of security that the riveting the actual plastic armor part of the belt to the pleather would work just fine. Spoiler alert, it didn't. But you will see that and how I overcame the problem later in the live action portion of the video. I pre-drilled the rivet holes in both the pleather and the main plastic part of the belt. I covered the exposed portion of the Velcro to protect it from the paint I was about to apply. I spray painted the fabric side of the pleather white and plasti-dipped the plastic parts also in white, then glossified it. I'll be honest, I think the plastic would have taken rattle can white just as well. Either way, I left it a little dingy looking. After all, it had just come out of a trash compactor.
How's it going, guys? Like I said in my last video, my son is going to a costume party for Halloween, and he bought one of these cheapish Han Solo costumes off of Amazon. Now, it's definitely not 501st material. It's barely, it has the pants, it has a shirt, it has the vest, so that part's good. It doesn't come with a belt or a blaster or anything like that, and I know that for his purposes right now, he's not really, in a position to buy one of those, especially it's kind of a cheaper costume. So, what I decided to do was, I have a Stormtrooper belt that I got for a costume that I did before. Now, what I've done is I've gone ahead and disassembled the one that I had. I've repainted it. I've made a belt to attach it to that's my son's size as opposed to my size. Again, nothing that I'm going to be showing you today is going to necessarily be, approvable by any of your screen accurate groups. I belong to the Imperial Outlanders, so we're more about giving people an opportunity to go ahead and get their feet wet in the costume world with whatever level they can do. We do have members who are members of the 501st, the Man Mercs, and the Rebel Legion, and they do help kind of mentor people who want to take their costumes to that level. We don't discourage people from doing that, but in fact, we'll encourage you to make your costume as realistic as you want to be. But for someone like my son who's just starting to think about getting into cosplaying, this is a good way to get started. Let's try something out for a Halloween costume, but let's punch it up a little bit. So I'll show you the belt in a little bit. Right now, what I'm working on is the holster. Now, the idea behind this is I'm replicating the belt that Han Solo wore when he came out of the trash compactor, okay? Now, when he came out of the trash compactor, he did not have his DL-44, and he did not have his usual blaster holster rig. What he had was one of these, and he had a Stormtrooper belt. Now, if you look at the Black Series in particular, figures that have been made of him, he has one of these holsters on the belt. If you look at the actual movie, I believe there is no holster there, but since my son's going to be going to a party and possibly going to be going out with some friends to do some visiting of various watering holes, shall we say, he needs somewhere to put the blaster so he's not just walking around like this all the time. Plus, this might alarm the local police. Now, in order to avoid that, I am going to be adding some bright orange tape to certain parts of this so it'll be highly visible from anybody who's looking at it from a distance, but at the same time, while he's holding it, you won't be able to see the tape, except for what's on the back here and stuff like that. So, like, if he's taking a picture, there'll be a little bit of orange paint inside here, and that'll be just about it. But when he's not taking a picture, it'll be blatantly obvious that there's orange markings on this thing. So, that's something else I'm going to be working on tonight, is getting this thing back up to snuff, because quite frankly, I'm not satisfied with the job I did on it before. But for now, what I'm doing while the paint is drying on my Stormtrooper belt, I bought myself a little sewing machine thing. I so far haven't been able to make it work. I don't know what I did wrong, but at this point, I'm not going to try and stake everything on being able to use it tonight. So when I made this for my other costume, I actually just stapled it along the edges. I went ahead and did the patterns. You can find patterns for these out there. It's no problem. But what happened was I just ended up stapling it really hard because I figured I was only going to use it for one troop anyway. So now that my son's going to be using it, I don't want it to fall apart. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using rivets to kind of hold it together. Once again, you won't get approved doing this, but if you're in a pinch and you can't sew or you don't have access to a sewing machine, this is just basic pleather. And I've got some Chicago snaps, which are these things right here. To hold the blaster in place. But yeah, if you're looking for something quick and dirty for a Halloween costume, this is the way to go. And I'm going to go ahead and I've already taken my drill, pre-drilled the holes, and now I'm going to go ahead and place the rivets and then secure them. So enjoy. They always say use the right tool for the right job. This comes with the kit. When you're doing this, everything in here is under pressure, so you have to actually, before you start screwing it in, you have to kind of push it in a little bit. And this thing must jam often enough because it has a little screwdriver part on the back here that's made to use with this cotter pin or whatever you call it. It's not really a cotter pin, but it reminds me of part of the M16 bolt carrier group, and a part that used to be held by a cotter pin. Anyway. Take it, place it over the rivet, squeeze it once to expand the rivet, squeeze it twice to cut it. So take it over, drop it just like that. So there you go. It's more secure now. You don't have to worry about it falling apart because it's only stapled together. I'll probably go in and hit these rivet heads with some black paint, but other than that, it's not really necessary. It doesn't look bad that way. But yeah. Okay, so here you can see I've got my components for my stormtrooper belt. Basically, what I've done is I took some pleather and I turned it inside out because it already has kind of a canvas backing to it. I just went ahead and painted it white. I did take and apply Velcro to it using rivets again. Now when I went to paint it, but I didn't want to gum up the rest of the Velcro, so I went ahead and used painter's tape to keep that as pristine as I could. So then what it does is it's going to wrap around like this, and boom, it'll be secure. Don't have to worry about it pulling off there. Now, the rest of this, I got these parts, I believe, from a guy on Etsy called Maker of Things. I believe that's who I got it from. And you can buy lots of different spare parts for the Stormtrooper, or you can buy the entire set. Now, what I did was I hit this thing with white paint, and I hit it with some glossifier, kind of make it a little shiny. It's not super duper shiny, but, and it's not the world's greatest paint job, but at the same time, you know, like I said, this is not going for approval for the 501st. This is something that was done for a Halloween project. So anyway, it doesn't have to be perfect. As you can see, I've already pre-drilled the holes where I'm going to be riveting it to the belt. I've also got the ammo boxes down here, which I'm going to be putting a rivet through the back side, and I'm going to be gluing the boxes together so that way they'll hang properly on the belt. And it did come with some covers, some little covers to cover up the rivet holes. I may or may not make some of those out of craft foam, but I might just leave it too, because as I said, this is not intended to be 501st approved. But Okay, these are not wanting to hold very well on the back side, so I might be applying some other means to hold it there. Probably some hot glue. Okay, so I tried the Gorilla Glue. I tried rivets. That didn't work. Now, we're going to move from an instructional tutorial on how to do a quick and dirty stormtrooper belt to what do you do if you're trooping and your belt comes apart? Well, like they say, there are very few problems in life that can't be solved with an applicable dosage of high explosives or duct tape. I happen to have duct tape. I just so happen to have white duct tape, which is awesome because with white duct tape, I'm going to be able to force it. I'm going to force the issue. If you're a stormtrooper, you should always have this with you. And don't feel bad because I've seen duct tape on stormtrooper costumes in the movies. Absolutely. There have been times when stuff has hit the fan with a costume and they resorted to duct tape. So, this is what I'm going to resort to. I do want to make it as smooth looking as possible. You know, I don't want it to look like crap. But boom. One side. And that, ladies and gentlemen, works. Oh, I'm clever. All right. You know, if there's a will, there's a way. here. Alright, so I was going to touch it up with some black paint. I don't have any more black paint, at least not in the rattle can. But one of the things that I definitely can improve on is the way that this part here looks. So I'm going to use some metallic tape, which I should have used honestly to begin with, but I didn't. So it gives it a little bit of a contrast. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. Now, the last thing I'm going to do for this is for safety. Now, when you go trooping, it depends on where you're at and what the rules are for the particular venue. I got this, had to be returned to my car at one event. Other events, they don't care. You can carry blasters all you want, even ones that don't have the orange markings on them. Now the thing is my son's going to a Halloween party, but then they may go out to a few adult watering holes, and I don't want him being confused by some over vigilant person thinking that this is an actual gun. But I don't also want to permanently mar the thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it with orange in places where if somebody wants to get a picture with him, his hand will cover up the orange, except for, you know, what's going to be up here inside the muzzle. But yeah, so there won't be anybody getting confused while he's walking around with it in the holster. So what I found, and exactly what I was looking for, is Gorilla Tape, high visibility tape. Not a sponsor, perhaps it should be. Although their glue didn't do squat for my belt there. That's not, I'm sure, their fault. I'm sure there's some disclaimer that says that, you know, it doesn't work on certain things. So, and usually most things that I buy by Gorilla are pretty solid. So let's see here. Now getting the stuff off, that might be a whole nother issue, but at this point I'm not worried about that. That right there should be sufficient for the needs, because like I said, when it's in the holster, as I will show you here in a moment, when it's in the holster, it's evident by the person wearing it that it is not a real gun. Nobody's going to mistake that for a real gun. But if any pictures get taken, then it's not so clear, you know. If you get a picture taken like this, then hey, you know what? You can't see it. This might be a good compromise as well for a lot of people if you're going to go ahead and be trooping with an E11 anyway, and they require you to have markings on it. This is one way you can do it, where you can still walk around. When somebody says, hey, where's your mark? Boom, there you go.